Oftentimes, when you see the colors pink and green paired with each other, you'll see Cosmo and Wanda, you're not slick as a response. They may not be slick, but are they sick? Wow. Sick of each other, that is. I don't know, let's find out.
Your video to the show. I do.
Butt lovers. If you're new here, hi, I overthink things and take things incredibly personally. I get my feelings hurt over cartoon characters, and it may not seem like it, but my videos are intended for adults. I give this disclaimer every time. Jumping right into it, in 1998, the first short aired as part of Oh Yeah Cartoons, and it showed Vicky abusing Timmy in a much more realistic, shitty teenager way. No chainsaw, nothing jail-worthy, no flamethrowers. The only power she possesses at this point is emotional damage. Timmy's godparents, Cosmo and Wanda, emerged from a magic 9-ball and introduced themselves. This introduction was actually reused in the main series, but obviously in the updated art style as part of the special Abracatastrophe. But back in the Oh Yeah cartoon days, Cosmo's voice was way lower and had this sultry feel. It gave him a whole different vibe.
I am your father.
Yes, Daddy.
Wanda was more playful and bubbly, actually encouraging creative and troublesome wishes. The two of them had pet names for each other and worked together without butting heads.
May I, Pookie?
Of course, Stallion.
The one time Cosmo turns Vicky into a chocolate snake instead of a chocolate shake, Wanda pointed out this mistake, and instead of it being a classic Cosmo is a dipshit moment, he looks at his wand and says, I really need to get this fixed. Okay, this doesn't really have to do with their relationship, but I love this line. Because in the full series that aired, there were so many hints that their magic was technological as well as genetic. Like the giant fairy wand in Fairy World that was a radio tower that controlled all the other wands' energy. Come on now. And in these Oh Yeah shorts, we also see these robot fairy hybrid things. I wish they decided to keep them. I think this is so much fun. The original 7-minute shorts had other concepts that weren't fully realized in the full series. Vicky being the one to try and uncover the fairies, threatening Timmy that she will figure out what's going on. That never came to be, and obviously this conspiracy theorist motivation was put into Mr. Crocker, the teacher. Glad this cuckoo croc exists, but it leaves Vicky feeling way more hollow and empty. I know she's just supposed to be a force of unforgiving evil, but to me that feels useless. I know it leads to higher cartoony stakes, but rewatching the full episodes as an adult, I just kind of cringe a bit. I'm like, okay, she's the devil, sure. Back to the real focus of this video. The final beat of this pilot was Cosmo and Wanda laughing, swimming into their fishbowl, and leaving behind a heart-shaped bubble. Originally, their love had no hint of snark or resentment. There were 9 other Oh Yeah shorts. There were many instances of floating hearts and lovey-dovey moments, but here are the ones that stuck out most to me. In Where's the Wand, Wanda was getting ready to play pirates with Cosmo and Timmy, and when she revealed her outfit, she was wearing 2 eye patches, and then she began to scream that it was dark. Cosmo gently explained that she only needs 1. They used different mushy pet names and laughed a laugh only people in love could laugh. Other than the sheer joy they share together. This scene also shows that the original Wanda was way more of an airhead. She shows competence in her job and matters of the rules, but socially she's actually a few steps behind Cosmo. While they played pirates, Wanda's wand was launched out the window and landed into the hands of Vicky, who was headed to a costume contest. With this wand, Vicky can grant her own wishes as well as other people's wishes. So they need to get this wand back fast. One plan of Cosmo's is to flirt with Vicky so he can get close enough to her to snatch the wand back. He tries to explain this to Wanda, but Wanda is pissed. She does not like this plan, and she immediately takes it very personally. Cosmo not only apologizes, but puts on a song for them to dance together too. Wanda's happiness is something he can never brush aside, even in dire situations. The Wanda from the Oh Yeah shorts is way more chaotic of the two, as seen in the Really Bad Day. Every 2,000 years, a fairy gets to be really bad, and last time when it was Wanda's turn, she wiped out the dinosaurs. Now, the most evil thing Cosmo can muster up is making Brussels sprouts go bad. He's too sweet. He can't help but be nice. In the series with the full episodes, oh how the mighty have fallen in this regard. The closest thing we see to Wanda nagging is in the fairy flu when she scolds Cosmo for getting her sick, but I think this is something all couples do. The shorts were not only more loving for the fairies, but also for the parents and Timmy. In last week's video, I was ranking cartoon dads, and I got to revisit how truly mean-spirited Mr. Turner is. But in these shorts, his parents are very intelligent. They almost fire Vicky right from the get-go. Why did they change every character to be worse? Whose boomer humor corrupted the show to include every couple's relationship falling apart?
Bruh.
The first few episodes have a similar vibe to the shorts. Wanda is encouraging Cosmo, saying, "Great idea, Puddin'." She supports and goes along with his ideas, probably because at this point he puts more effort in and actually thinks things through as much as he can. He tries, at the very least. We have this adorable exchange where they acknowledge their strengths, but it went off the rails much quicker than I expected. In the season 1 episode Father Time, when Cosmo almost grants Timmy's dad a wish, Wanda very politely corrects him that they're only supposed to grant Timmy's wishes. Even though this was a silly mistake, she was very patient, talking to him in the most loving and endeared way possible. And this is during the same episode when Cosmo is rubbing it in Wanda's face that Timmy takes more of his suggestions than hers, turning their job into a contest between them. This can be interpreted as playful banter, but Wanda is not snapping back in any sort of way, which is something she's known to do later in the series. Cosmo and Wanda run into themselves from the 80s, which differs from the younger versions of themselves we saw in the short The Temp, where they look taller somehow. I said 80s about 80 fucking times. They actually went to the 70s. So, anyway, in this episode, past and present Cosmo and Wanda are just dancing and vibing together. At first, I thought if you can go on a double date with you and your partner from another era, that's next level love. But it actually doesn't go in that wholesome direction at all. 80s Cosmo and Wanda are, of course, huge stoners. Stoner Wanda said that they're all prisoners on the inside. A very stereotypical, fake, deep, anti-establishment thing to say. And 80s stoner Cosmo is smitten. And even though this has nothing to do with their relationship, I just think it's so silly that they made Cosmo and Wanda's godchild from the 80s Bill Gates. Anyway, Cosmo really loving 80s Wanda goes so much deeper when present-day Cosmo tells 80s Wanda that he loves her. And present-day Wanda gets jealous. Cosmo nervously adds, "And I always will," meaning I'll always love you. And when Wanda kisses him on the cheek, he, very relieved, adds, "Hey, it worked." This goes to show Wanda changed over time, and Cosmo actually preferred her before this change. And subconsciously, Wanda must have known this, because why else would you be jealous of yourself? Unless you thought at that time that your partner loved you more than now. Cosmo also must have changed for the worse, as his past self reprimands him for continuing to negatively influence Timmy. His past self also awes along with everyone else when Cosmo says he'll always love Wanda, because past Cosmo actually believes this. He loves his wife. He has faith in their relationship. He doesn't know that present-day version of him doesn't. This was in season 1, and we haven't even gotten to Mama Cosma yet.
I told you she was horrible.
In the season 1 episode of Partnership, it is Cosmo and Wanda's 9,895-year anniversary. Each fairy anniversary is themed for some reason. So Wanda faked being angry because that's the 9,895th anniversary thing to do, but Cosmo didn't realize. Cosmo thought it was the styrofoam-themed anniversary. Unimportant. He just thought Wanda forgot about their anniversary, so he ran off to stay at his mother's. Wanda lets us in on kind of a huge thing. Cosmo's mother has no idea Cosmo and Wanda are married. When Cosmo returns, his mother asks him if he got the milk.
Did you get the milk, Cosmo?
Which is usually an absent dad joke, not an absent son joke. The emotional incest between these two is very unsubtle, and it only gets worse from here. This, of course, includes her disapproval of Wanda. When Wanda goes to Cosmo's mother's house to check in on him, she catches him hanging out with 2 other women and eating I Hate Wanda cookies. If that's not an overreaction, I don't know what is. Even worse, everyone keeps telling Wanda that these 2 two tall fairy women flirting with her husband are more attractive than her. This is something Cosmo says to her too.
Surrounded by women more aesthetically pleasing than you.
That pretty much hits the nail on the head.
At this point, I would have been done.
Divorced.
But Wanda stays and the two get into a magical duel. Does this count as domestic violence? Somehow, this episode ends with Wanda apologizing. Apologizing for what? Her and Cosmo agree that she won't yell at Cosmo again unless he really deserves it. And they pretty much confirm that this will be every day for the rest of their lives. Listen, they communicated this, they agreed on this, this is their banter. I think it's awful. But the creepiness of Mama Cosma overshadows this, as she revealed she wouldn't have approved of any woman, and the two tall fairy ladies were actually robots that she programmed. She was controlling a robot to date her son. She doesn't like Wanda because she cannot date her own son through her. She wants to date her own son. Wanda, if all of Cosmo's flags weren't red enough, this mother should send you running. Flying away. People take Cosmo choosing Wanda over these ladies and sticking up for her out of context and play it up as this super cute moment, but it's not. This is just what he should have done from the start. That would be like if I took this clip and I was like, wow, look at how he plays piano with his wife. Look at how they look into each other's eyes as they sing. They must be couple goals. I love me a Family Guy. The in-law drama does not stop there. In the season 5 episode Talkin' Trash, we meet Wanda's mobster dad who hates Cosmo. Even before Big Daddy is introduced, Cosmo makes a joke, and I use that word loosely, about wanting to send Wanda's nagging mouth into space. She's angry and turns Cosmo into a rocket, shooting him up into space, leaving him charred and lit on fire. Cosmo says Wanda's cooking smells like trash. Wanda says Cosmo's feet smell like trash. As Wanda's talking, Cosmo puts down an anti-nag shield. And Timmy confirms that Cosmo ignores her since she always tries to talk them out of doing irresponsible stuff. This was all within the first 3 minutes of the episode. We haven't gotten to the story yet, but we have 5 insults and 1 act of violence. Hey, instead of doing all of this, can I suggest divorce? Big Daddy, just like Mama Cosmo, was not in the loop about his own daughter's marriage. His only other appearance is in the season 5 episode Big Wanda, which is when things take an even stranger turn. The Godfather references that'll go over kids' heads continues, as Big Daddy's favorite pillow is a horse head. Ah, okay. This is a reference to that hilarious scene from The Godfather when they decapitate a horse and put it in someone's bed. Big Daddy gets kidnapped by Mama Cosma. They call it getting fairy napped. It's so original and cool. At first he's in a cage, but then the two realize they have a common goal of splitting up their children. This leads to, at the very least, a sexual relationship between the two. Meaning, their family tree looks like a spider web. Very bizarre also considering Mama Cosma will shit-talk his own daughter in front of him, and he'll shit-talk her son in front of her. How does that not put a damper on things? With how overprotective they are, you'd think they'd stand up for their children, but they don't. Mama Cosma even tries to kill him and Wanda, and he finds it very endearing. Gee, I wonder who normalized toxic relationships for Cosmo and Wanda. For a split second, Cosmo thinks Wanda was assassinated. But then when he realizes she's alive, he says, "There goes my dating plans." If you took a shot for every time there was "I hate my wife" boomer humor in this show, I don't think you'd survive a single episode.
Oh my god.
We meet Wanda's twin sister Blonda in the episode Blondas Have More Fun. Blonda is a big Hollywood star, a huge diva, very explosive, and even though she looks exactly like Wanda just with a different hair color, everyone says she's the hotter sister. They really have to shit on Wanda as much as possible every single episode. At the end of the episode, Cosmo ogles at Blonda, calling her hot, and implies Wanda shouldn't be offended because he chose her. But then he throws in, "But it was dark." Aside from the insult that also fully doesn't make sense, was there ever a time when it was up in the air between the two of them? Eeny, meeny, miny. Hey, who turned off the lights? The one on the right. You are my wife now. Blonda would have divorced him by now. There is no shot, if he chose Blonda, that she would put up with this shit. I completely misremembered Juandissimo's introduction. I really thought it was similar to the admiration Cosmo showed Wanda. But in the episode Fairy Quite Contrary, all Wanda said is that Juandissimo is her ex. And then the rest of the episode, he was trying to court her and she ignored him. She was very respectful. Cosmo was still infuriated by Juandissimo, which must have been a bit validating for Wanda, as she smiled a lot when Cosmo jumped in front of her. Hey, you can't disrespect my marriage. That's my job! I decided before we get to their child, let's cover all the major specials from my childhood that really stuck out to me. Starting with School's Out the musical, because this is where we see their supposed backstory in song. The song Floating With You is a duet between the two that's in response to Jorgen trying to get Wanda to throw Cosmo under the bus. We see many flashbacks of awkward teenage Cosmo and Wanda out on dates, and they're starting to fall in love, and Cosmo's actually fucking up from the very start. The whole song confirms that they find comfort in being together despite everything that goes wrong. I know I'll get through it if I'm floating through it with you. This would make a lot of sense and even be a bit cute if they didn't immediately show that their motivation was in fact to distract Jorgen with a, in their words, stupid gooey love song. So who knows how much of this is even genuine? Maybe none of it is, but one lyric that really stuck out to me was the line, "I'm drawn to him magically." Who hexed Wanda? Who tethered her soul to this shit-brained, smelly douchebag? That being said, we do have one of the best Cosmo moments after this. He finds the last fairy wand, gives Wanda a kiss on the cheek, and not only does he save her from her magic being stripped from her by sending her down to Earth while he stays behind, but him sending her to save the world is him acknowledging, you are the smart one, you are the capable one. I believe in you more than I believe in myself, and given their track record, this was the correct decision. Not only was it sweet, it was also a very smart moment for Cosmo. But because it has to end on a punchline, after she repeatedly screams Cosmo, which we thought was being said out of love, she ends it with, I'm not naggy, which is something he said a while ago. Isn't that funny? Isn't it so funny and quirky that this show can't let a moment of sincerity play out for more than 3 seconds? The special Abracatastrophe is the 1-year anniversary of Timmy having Cosmo and Wanda as fairy godparents. Most kids cannot keep this secret that long and get their fairies taken away from them at this point, presenting one of the overarching rules of the series as the main fear of this episode. We see Cosmo's insecurity as Wanda says that she brought men to this party. He doesn't get angry or snappy or mean, he just sadly and pathetically asks, wait, how many men? I hate to say it, Cosmo needs to be humbled more. Once the men leave the party, Cosmo reverts back to trying to insult his wife, blurting out that she's gained weight. After Crocker captures Wanda, Cosmo yells for her, flies towards Crocker to try and get her back, and says how much he loves her, and how little he's able to do without her help. He does mention dating again, but this time he's terrified at the prospect of it. He is centering himself after his wife got kidnapped. Listen, it's clear he loves her. He is valid for spiraling. This is a better reaction than we've seen from him in other episodes, obviously. But still, even him bringing up dating in a negative context isn't him acknowledging how much he's gonna miss Wanda. He's complaining that no one will ever love him again. Correct, but also unhelpful. After more spiraling, Cosmo gets buff to try and fight Crocker and take his wife back. She swoons over his heroism and his new physique. I'm telling you, I think this all started because of the men Wanda brought to the party. Cosmo's real character flaws come out when he gets too comfortable. Once he realizes his wife can be taken from him, that inspires the few times in this series where he gets serious and thinks about Wanda's well-being over his own. Channel Chasers has a lot less of Cosmo and Wanda putting each other down and fighting. There was only one line, granted it was really bad. Cosmo blasts lasers through the wall. Then he looks at Wanda and says, you should really listen to me more. If that's not a threat, I don't know what is. Besides that, it is definitely one of the strongest Fairly OddParents episodes. Their sense of humor is applied best when it comes to parodies. Seeing all the different art styles is super fun. And from a plot and character standpoint, I love that it spells out the fear of growing up and getting the fairies taken from him and getting his memory wiped. Which, aside from that being sad, because Timmy's gonna forget Cosmo and Wanda, his best friends, he also made most of his memories with them. Is he just gonna completely black out the years between 10 and 16? He's going to forget most of his childhood/teenage years. This is also a really great setup for the season 8 episode Timmy's Secret Wish, where it's revealed that Timmy stopped himself and everyone else from aging for 50 years.
I secretly wish that everyone would stop aging so that I could stay 10 years old and keep my fairies forever.
What? When did you make this wish?
50 years ago.
Dude, I don't know why, but every time I hear that line, I get chills. The implications of that are insane. It makes the rest of the series so much creepier. Like, imagine withholding that information from everyone around you who is trapped in this torturous existence. The loopholes and lore of the fairy world is super interesting. Like, we hear about ancient fairies, all the different ways other magical creatures can become a fairy godparent, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Hey, how are fairy babies made anyway?
What the hell is even that?
Cosmo and Wanda wanted to be parents for a while, but unfortunately when Cosmo was born, he was such a little shit that having new fairy babies was against the law. And since fairies are immortal, they don't really need to create more of them anyway. Cosmo and Wanda shared that they tried to fill the void with godchildren. Not the nicest thing to share with Timmy, but Timmy also wants this for them. Timmy finds a loophole in the rules. There is no rule against him wishing for a god sibling for himself, so that's what he does. We find out boy fairies give birth, so Cosmo starts going through intense mood swings and vomiting. Timmy, fed up by this fate that he brought upon himself, wishes that Cosmo would just get lost, and so Cosmo does. Because Timmy said, "I wish," Cosmo might have had to get lost even if he wasn't angry, but that doesn't change the fact that he left his wife worried about his well-being as well as the well-being of their baby. In fact, Wanda exclaims, "Oh no, our baby's gonna be born alone, and with Cosmo!" She expresses great fear about Cosmo alone with their baby. That isn't good. You should trust that the person you're co-parenting with is competent enough to, co-parent, even when you're not around. When Cosmo and Wanda reunite, there's nothing but good vibes, as they are very excited to be parents together. And luckily, they don't have to wait much longer because Cosmo is giving birth. Timmy wishes for the baby to be born, which I think could have happened at any time, actually. Would have saved Cosmo a lot of pain. And also, they could have just wished to find Cosmo in the first place, but they needed an excuse for Timmy, Jorgen, and Wanda to blurt out the news of a new fairy baby to the anti-fairies and pixies that want to use the newborn's magic for evil. With fairy baby's magic being so unstable and powerful, I'm just gonna say it, aside from it being a weak, gimmicky writing choice, it also doesn't even make sense to want to bring a kid into the situation. This kid is born, and immediately, evil beings try and kidnap it for world domination. And all you can do is stand there and gasp. To their credit, after the commercial break, we see Cosmo and Wanda with weapons defending their baby. On the other hand, who's going to defend their baby from them? We see just how many times Cosmo has dropped Poof. Listen, 1 is too many, but at least 5, and one of them is off of the Grand Canyon? My guy, it's not like it'll do any physical damage to this godlike creature, but it'll definitely do emotional damage. One thing that Cosmo and Wanda have going for them in this special, other than them achieving their lifelong goal of wanting to have kids, is Cosmo seems very impressed with how much Wanda knows about him. She knew his head was full of jelly and that the flavor was grape. She doesn't seem to enjoy this fact about him. Later in the special, he tries comforting his wife, whose baby was kidnapped, with his head jelly. It's genuinely difficult to gauge how much they love each other through every non-stop bit that they just beat to death. This special is 45 minutes long, but if they didn't have to repeat every joke 100 goddamn times, it would have been 15 minutes easily. Usually my nostalgia overrides cringe, but this episode was rough. And also a great indicator of the dip in quality to come.
Sparky the magic dog!
I'm trying to hit every major beat of this show's life, okay? In the season 9 premiere, Fairly Odd Pet, Timmy gets a fairy dog from a fairy pet store. We also hear that Wanda has tried to return Cosmo to the pet store when she gets really overwhelmed. Any sense of hope from this woman is fully extinguished at this point. She doesn't even have the energy to get mad or fight. There is no life behind her eyes. She does let Cosmo and her son Poof lick her, though.
What?
So, I guess she fluctuates between being fully checked out and whatever this state of manic insanity is. Cosmo flirts with a blonde woman in front of Wanda, but he claims he was talking to a lamp. I don't know if he's telling the truth, but even if he is, does that make it any better? The final beat of this episode was Wanda spraying Cosmo with a hose in front of Poof, and once again exclaiming, in the most drained way possible, that she's overwhelmed. As bad as I feel for my girl Wanda, there's still elements of this episode I enjoyed. And I'll just say it, I think this episode is better than Fairly Odd Baby. Fairly Odd Baby, the plot, there were easy solutions to. This one, at least there were fun, different, magical things that I wasn't expecting. Oh, fairy dog fleas. When they bite a human, the human turns into a werewolf. Okay, sure. I can't dispute that. The news anchor Chet You Betcha at Timmy's window, whispering to him, put on the news, and then running to the news station to report the news. I like giving tiny characters that have been there since the beginning gags like this. I just hope Wanda goes to therapy and gets on Zoloft before the new godchild. Yeah, in the next season they introduce yet another main character. You know what they say. If it is broke, keep trying the same method of fixing it that hasn't worked before over and over again. The introduction of Sparky from last season makes a point to show how many times this dog has been returned, with Timmy even saying that he would never return Sparky. But guess what? Sparky disappears with no explanation, which means that if Timmy was telling the truth and Timmy didn't return this dog, Sparky died. Can't dwell on that for too long, it's Chloe time! Who is this? Chloe Carmichael is the new girl in town that Timmy has to share his fairies with for some reason. It's the most nonsensical addition, and that is saying something. From what I heard about Chloe, she's just perfect, like there's no character flaws there, a total Mary Sue. But now that I've met her, holy shit, this is next level. In this episode, Cosmo and Wanda were being loving towards each other, taking selfies, showing off their selfies. I realize the bar is on the floor, but after seasons of them hating each other, I'm just glad they're having fun. Also, wait a goddamn minute, is that a pair phone? Are they setting this in the Dan Schneider universe? No! Wanda was being gentle and calling Cosmo dear even when he was being painfully stupid, and he didn't disrespect her even once. Did Chloe save their marriage just by existing? Season 10's theme song sucks actual ass. What? No, leave me alone! My fairies, get your own!
No flow, dude.
The Bippy theme song during the Abracatastrophe special was much better than this, and they played this for the entire final season. Stinky. And Chloe's introduction, as I said, doesn't make sense, but at least they're all happy, I guess. Unsurprisingly, in the very next episode, Whittle Me This, we're back to that same anger and disappointment. Wanda says it's her and Cosmo's anniversary, and he forgets every year. Every year? What about the year he remembered but forgot the theme, causing him to cheat on you in his mother's house? With his mother's robots that she controls. Plot twist, Season 10 Cosmo and Wanda are still on a much better track. Cosmo made a heartfelt gift to her which took the entire episode to create and lots of trial and error, and she loved it, and she got him these rings, and even though Cosmo found the rings tacky, he didn't tell her, instead pretending he loved them, which I personally think was the right move. Gift giving is a very vulnerable thing. If you have to confess that you don't like the rings, tell her in a few years after she got you a gift that you like. Back in my day, when Cosmo and Wanda were three-dimensional, their personalities became more two-dimensional. In the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour, they were just used as a tool to compete with Jimmy Neutron's inventions. They didn't add anything. In the live-action Fairly OddParents movie with Drake Bell, we have Cosmo making very quick jabs about Wanda, calling her a man, saying her voice is shrill and demanding. Using the word shrill is crazy when your voice is 3 octaves higher than hers, bro.
Fuck you, Cosmo.
But here he backs down immediately, backpedaling as quick as possible and apologizing. Probably because Wanda's scowl in 3D is fucking terrifying. We also hear Poof laugh as his mother gets insulted, showing this behavior unfortunately might be passed down to their child. But the thing that surprised me the most is when Cosmo and Wanda transformed into live-action humans, they were actually incredibly sweet to each other, but incredibly mean to Tootie. The reason for this is that the movie centers Cosmo and Wanda not wanting to leave Timmy more so than the TV show has ever done. The cartoon usually focused on Timmy's fear, while Wanda seemed to be level-headed about it. But here she's threatening Tootie for being in love with Timmy, it's giving Mama Cosma, dude. I don't like it. Channel Chasers was all about embracing change and letting yourself grow up, and the longer Nickelodeon held onto this series for dear life, the more they strayed away from that message. Fairly Odder was released in 2022, but was removed from everywhere in 2023 despite winning a Kids' Choice Award, the totally unbiased Nickelodeon award show. Oh my gosh, I'd like to thank all the fans of this show. Make some noise if you love Fairly Odder. Well, if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out on Paramount Plus. Yellow? What? Read the award. It says you're fired? I don't understand. The show is over? Pulled from everything, and now I'm making things worse because I'm repeating everything you say into the microphone? The writing of The Humans was this show's biggest downfall. It was so out of touch trying to make pop culture references, like trying to make a viral dance on Clip Clop, obviously their version of TikTok, and also having an adult Vicky be in love with Crocker was certainly a choice, but from everything I was able to find, and this truly shocked me, this is when they started to make Cosmo and Wanda consistently more affectionate and genuinely happy in each other's presence.
I'm trying to impress this pretty pink-haired lady.
We see Cosmo laughing at Wanda's jokes, backing her up when she tells the kids no. They get all mushy and express gratitude for each other. We also meet Brandy Lynn, who's Cosmo's ex. She pretty much plays the same role as Juandissimo. She's very flirty towards Cosmo, but he does not reciprocate, keeping things very respectful, and Wanda gets jealous.
Let me get the door for you. Cosmo's such a gentleman. Wanda!
I knew from all the clips circulating on Twitter that I would eat this series up, and I was right. Also, the new theme song is stupid good. What an earworm. So Cosmo and Wanda have been retired for 10,000 years, and have been enjoying themselves by traveling through time. Their dynamic is more playful and fun, and they're, gasp, fully happy together. No hints of their previous toxicity anywhere to be found. People theorize that their retirement played a huge role in this, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they retired right after Timmy. First of all, they were frozen in time with Timmy for 50 years, shackled to his selfish antics much longer than the average godchild. But I think a bigger role in their healing was the time travel. Remember how in Father Time they ran into their past selves? I think they were only able to get to this point after going back and reflecting on when exactly the resentment started, and what they both have to work on moving forwards. Here's how I think that went. So you see, here's where I started to take those jokes personally. At first I went with it because I knew you were trying to bond with Timmy, but you became meaner and completely disregarded how I felt. I started to roll my eyes because it felt like you weren't having fun with me anymore, and I missed the times when we were both silly instead of you always feeling above it. I felt like I needed to be above it because I was worried you and Timmy riling each other up would lead to destruction. I felt like I wasn't allowed to have fun, especially with the constant pressure Jorgen put on me to reel you in. I deserve a Kids' Choice Awards for that performance. I think Hazel is a great main character. She has a hard time adjusting to the move in this new city life, and she's able to get into shenanigans without it being malicious, which is obviously the direction Timmy usually went in. Cosmo and Wanda were so excited and emotional to be godparents again, and as they look into each other's eyes and cry, I can only assume they're acknowledging how far they've come. They live in a house in Fairy World with a door portal to Earth. This is so that they can feel more comfortable. They reveal that back in the Timmy days, they felt way too confined and needed freedom. Does that not sound like a couple that has unpacked a lot in therapy? Because again, they're not just married for thousands of years, they were co-workers for thousands of years. There were a lot of mistakes made. The way they write Wanda is not uptight at all. Her concern comes from a place of care instead of anger and disappointment. And her moments on screen don't make me feel drained and feel sorry for her. She's written with humor and fun in mind, and not through this misogynistic lens that the majority of the original series leaned into for whatever reason. When she was spread eagle on Hazel's parents talking about the joys of a car wash, I couldn't help but think, did Cosmo and Wanda explore in this regard as well? My husband and I saw you from across the bar, and we really dig your vibe. I don't know, good for them. I fucks with it. I genuinely can't wait to watch more of A New Wish. I love this series even more than I thought I would, and again, based on everything I've seen, I knew I'd love it. This is an instance of making pop culture references in a more informed way. Like, you'd think the ASMR kid would be cringy. I think it's really well done, because they get specific with it.
Squish,
They're not just like, this is the latest TikTok dance. Like, no, they're going for a specific thing to parody. The more specific you can make the parody and the more informed you are about what you're parodying, the better it will be. I think they're doing a fantastic job. I hope more people give it a chance. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And I'm just so happy that Wanda and Cosmo love each other again. I love just like how they look together, A. B, from all the way back in the shorts, they had this potential and now they're finally being written in a good way and I just love that for them. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to subscribe. Have a great day, butt lovers. Bye!